You've heard it a million times on the news, right? The economy is growing. But then you look at your wallet and, well, it feels like it didn't get the invitation to the party. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the one number that runs the show, GDP. And if you feel that way, you are definitely not alone. It's this huge disconnect, isn't it? The headlines shout about growth, but for a lot of us, the cost of living and our savings accounts are telling a very different story. So what is going on? Let's get into it. All right, so first things first, we got to understand the main character of this whole economic story, GDP. Think of it as the big single report card for an entire country's economy. I mean, just think about that for a second. Trying to capture everything, every single tea tarik sold, every car assembled, every app developed in Malaysia, and cram it all into one number, that's the whole idea behind GDP. It's a massive ambition, but as we're about to see, it's also got some massive blind spots. So officially, what is it? Gross domestic product. It's the grand total market value of all the final stuff made and sold inside a country's borders, usually over a quarter or a full year. And that word final is super important. It means we're not counting the steel for the car, then the car door, then the finished car. Nope, we just count the final car when it's sold. So, how in the world do they calculate this massive number? Well, the most common way is actually pretty simple in theory. They just add up all the spending. The logic is, if something was made, someone, somewhere, had to have paid for it. Makes sense, right? It all boils down to a pretty neat little formula. First up, you've got C for consumption. That's us, you and me, buying groceries, paying our phone bills, all that stuff. Then there's I for investment, which is businesses spending on new equipment or buildings. G is for government spending, on roads, schools, you name it. And finally, you take exports, what we sell to the world, and subtract imports, what we buy from them. Add it all up, and boom, you've got GDP. Okay, so that's the textbook version. Let's bring this into the real world and see what the numbers actually say about Malaysia right now. And here it is, the headline number, 4.4%. That's how much Malaysia's economy grew in the second quarter of 2025 compared to last year. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? The country made 4.4% more stuff this year than last year. But you know, a number by itself is just a number. It needs context. So when we put it next to our neighbors, you can see we're right there in the mix, growing at the same pace as Singapore, and just a little behind Indonesia. So our economic engine is definitely humming along. Now, here's a quick but really, really important detail. That 4.4% figure is for real GDP. That's the fancy way of saying they've already taken out the effects of inflation. So we know the growth is from actually producing more, not just because prices for everything went up. It's actual, tangible growth. And this brings us to the absolute heart of the issue. If the economy is really growing, why doesn't it feel like our own bank accounts are growing with it? This is the gap between growth and our actual well-being. And look, don't just take it from me. Listen to this guy, Simon Kuznets. He's the economist who literally invented the concept of GDP. Even way back then, he warned everyone, saying you can't really judge the welfare of a nation by this one number. The creator himself knew it wasn't the whole story. So what exactly does this giant number miss? Well, it turns out it misses almost everything that actually matters in our day-to-day lives. It says zero about how fairly income is spread. It completely ignores the value of work done at home. It doesn't subtract the cost of pollution. It misses that huge part of our economy like hawker stalls and gig work. And it sure as heck can't tell you if we're healthy or happy. And here's where it gets truly bizarre. GDP can actually go up because of bad things. A hurricane hits, all the spending to rebuild boosts GDP. A rise in crime, spending on more security systems and police also boosts GDP. It counts the money we spend to fix problems, but it completely ignores the cost of the problems themselves. This all brings us to the elephant in the room, inequality. We can measure this with something called the Gini coefficient. Just think of it as a score for the wealth gap. The higher the score, the bigger the gap between the richest and the rest of us. So even when the whole economic pie, the GDP, gets bigger, this chart shows that the slices are not being shared out equally. And that is probably the biggest reason why national growth doesn't feel like personal growth. Okay, so if GDP is a flawed ruler, does that mean we're stuck? Not at all. It just means we need to start looking for a better one. And luckily, people are already building them. This whole conversation is forcing economists and leaders to ask a much better, much more important question. What if we measured what actually makes for a good life?
instead of just measuring how much stuff we produce?
Let's look at a couple of the leading alternatives. There's the Human Development Index, or HDI. It looks beyond just money and includes things like life expectancy and education levels. Basically, it asks, are people living long, healthy, educated lives? Then you have something called the Genuine Progress Indicator, or GPI. This one's really cool. It starts with GDP, but then it adds good things that GDP ignores, like volunteering, and it subtracts bad things, like the cost of pollution or crime. It tries to give a real look at our well-being.
See, in the end, what we choose to measure is what we choose to value. It shapes the kind of country we try to build. Join our growing community of Malaysians who want clarity, not confusion. If this explainer helped you see the bigger picture, hit like, subscribe, and let's stay informed together. Because the real challenge ahead for all of us is to decide what a truly successful nation looks like, and then figure out the best way to measure our journey there.